TimeEnds Radio.
From YouTube.
Dude, how are you? How you been? What's going on? What's the haps? I love the hat.
Thanks. I've got a collection behind me.
I see that.
My missing space.
It's super dope.
Thanks.
So I'm happy you're back on here. The reason why you're on here sucks, but like we said earlier, it's important. So
super important.
Let everybody know what's going on, and I'm gonna start blasting this on social media while you let us know what's up.
Cool. So I wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about my journey. So you guys interviewed me back in January, and all was well. And then shortly after the interview, I started having some health issues. And from what I understood, they were mental health issues. Let's just start from the beginning. It started with a trip to call the paramedics.
Wow, really?
I was having this panic attack that was so intense that I said goodbye to my family and literally asked my husband to grab aspirin. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was actually like convulsing and shaking, and I had never been so scared in my life. Paramedics in Burbank were here in like 2 minutes.
That's good.
They checked my heart and everything seemed to be fine. So at that point, I had some Xanax prescribed to me from my doctor. I took like half a Xanax and went to sleep. And then following that, a few weeks later, I ended up checking myself into the hospital, having the same issues. So crazy panic attacks, heart palpitations, shaking, like actively shaking. And this is not something I was familiar with. Mind you, I had like a mild level anxiety in life, don't we all?
Yeah.
2020 definitely spun that up a little bit, but I had never had such a strong panic attack. And quickly, I was looking at my regular doctor who kept prescribing anti-anxiety medication at me, and it was not something I was super excited about doing. I found a holistic psychiatrist that I started working with. We worked through some natural supplements and things like that to kind of calm my nervous system down. But the weird part was I kept having this feeling like, I'm like, this isn't my mind. This can't just be my mind. Because I understood what anxiety looked like on the back end. And I had one panic attack before when I was 15. So I knew what that felt like. And this felt different to me, but I kept trying to describe it. And everyone kept checking me and going like, you're fine. Nothing's wrong. So this psychiatrist at Hope Psychiatry here in Sherman Oaks had recommended like I connect with a regular doctor. So he hooked me up with Modern Med in Sherman Oaks. And they partnered together and worked together. And so I remember thinking like, I'm having panic attacks. Like, why am I talking to a regular doctor right now? Like, I've already seen my regular doctor. I don't know what this really has to do with anything. But my husband was like, just go, like, check out, see what's going on. So I get to this doctor, first meeting on Zoom, and we start talking. And essentially, I had some other symptoms, like stomach things that I had my whole life, sinus problems. I had acid reflux and a ton of like little symptoms that I kind of just lived with. I thought this is my life. Like,
yeah,
not going to complain, just going to, take some Prilosec and call it a day. Or, what does this look like for me? this is me.
Right. Just like normal stuff.
Yeah. But not fun and not comfortable, but tolerable. So, I've been tolerating these symptoms for 15 years, maybe more. I also, how they say like girls don't go to the bathroom? We don't do that. Well, this girl just didn't. Like
Mm.
literally, I hardly ever went to the bathroom. TMI, but I'm like, oh, I'm such a girl. I don't go to the bathroom. I'm like, how cute. I don't know. Like when people would say like you're supposed to go to the bathroom every day, I was like, yeah, well, I don't. I never did. And that was like my thing. I was like, this is just who I am. These are my things, right? That come with me. So about 5 minutes into this conversation with this doctor, talking about health stuff first before I mentioned the panic attacks. And finally, I get to the panic attacks, and he's like shaking his head, and he's like, I think you might have this thing called Sibo. So I'm like, okay. So at this point, I'm taking notes, and I'm like, what is Sibo? He's like, it's a stomach, it's a gut issue. And I'm
Mm.
thinking to myself, this guy's crazy for a minute. Because I'm like, what does this have to do with anxiety and panic attacks? So, obviously we talked about like what the steps would look like for testing for this and, what would that mean to a very low level conversation because weren't sure I had it. So I get off the phone with him. I spend the next week like a maniac researching SIBO. And the more I research, the more I have every symptom. And normally this is not me. I'm not the girl who's like, I have it, I'm sick. I'm normally like, yeah, I'm fine.
Right. Yeah.
In this case for me, I'm like, I have every one of these symptoms. I was like, all right, let's do the test. So the test is a simple breath test. You drink some of the solution and you breathe into a tube. It's super easy. So I'm like, this is no big deal. After the test, I've never felt so sick in my life. I was like, oh, I feel nauseous. I feel terrible. I called the doctor and he's like, that is actually a symptom of SIBO. If you
What?
take the test and you're feeling sick, this is probably your cause. The more I researched it, the more symptoms I have, like not going to the bathroom, having issues with reflux, sinus problems, and mucus, like all sorts of things. But the big kicker for me was the panic attacks because they were so surreal. I was literally sitting, there's a little chair over there.
Yeah.
I laid in that chair for almost 10 days and didn't get up. That's
What?
how bad they were.
It hurt
I was
moving?
taking I couldn't get up. I was shaking,
Oh
trembling. Like
man.
and it's so not like me. It's not me. It
Yeah.
was like another person. So, you know, turns out the test comes back and it was positive for SIBO. And the more I'm learning as I go, the more I'm researching and watching like YouTubers and trying to figure out the clues and the mystery of like what the heck is this SIBO and how is it causing my body to have panic attacks and anxiety like this, as well as these other symptoms. How have I had this for 15 years and not known?
So you've had it that long.
Yes, I
Holy
have.
shit.
Yeah. So I just kind of took it on as part of my burden to carry as like, this is my body.
Yeah.
No one could ever fix me. So some of the things that we tried to do for my symptoms were I had like a laser sinus surgery to open up my sinuses because they were constantly swollen. Um, and this is partially due to a histamine response from SIBO, we
Mm-hmm.
think. So there's
Mm-hmm.
like a histamine intolerance happening where my body is getting too much histamine and can't process it.
Right.
Um, I mean, just the thing is amazing of how many aspects of your health that your gut actually touches that you wouldn't realize. So before we realized that I had SIBO, I was noticing that I was getting bruises all over my body, like it looks like I was like abused. And some of them were from my son. Don't get me wrong, he's a little tough guy. But some of them were from like me knocking into things, but they were bad. And they would like just a little bump I'd have a bruise. I went to
Wow.
acupuncture, a little tiny needle, and there's like, a 2-inch bruise.
What?
So my
Wow.
body wasn't actually taking nutrients from food. The bacteria in my gut were depleting me of my nutrients. So I wasn't getting iron, magnesium. My vitamin D was at like 22, which is quite low for someone who's taking 10,000 milligrams of vitamin D a day.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was just like, it kind of came out of nowhere. And, when you added up all the symptoms, I was like, what the heck is this? So in my case, there are a couple different types of SIBO. From what I understand, there's a hydrogen SIBO
Mm.
and methane SIBO. And there's one other mixed SIBO that is fairly new that I don't know a ton about. I have methane SIBO, which essentially causes gas and bloating in the stomach. For some people, the gas is released. For me, it just caused pain
Mm.
and bloating in my stomach. So my stomach was constantly swollen and hurt. Different foods would affect it. So I would notice that, like onions and garlic, for instance, were a no for me.
Mm.
But I continued to eat them because I was like, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any better. Um, and so this thing slowly deteriorated my health over the past 15, 20 years, until I got to the point where I was nutrient deficient, magnesium deficient, which actually can cause anxiety as well. So it just exacerbates like what you've got going already and sort of plummeted it into a uh, nervous system, what felt like a shutdown of my nervous system. And it was super freaking scary.
I can imagine.
It was
uh,
like being in a fight or flight state for 10 days.
yeah.
And I felt like it was never going to end. Um, there was like a 48 or maybe 58-hour period I couldn't sleep. So I was so, my body was so wired from fight or flight response that I couldn't settle it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was doing breathing exercises. I was trying to do everything that I possibly could. I had like crystal bowls I was playing. I would try anything. If you told me to stick 2 straws up my nose, I would have done it.
Mm. I hear you there. I hear you. Wow. So let me understand this. So you've had this for about 15 to 20 years. You have no idea when it started?
So we think there's a couple things that can start SIBO.
Mm.
Um, one of them is antibiotics. So as a child, I was on a ton of antibiotics.
Mm.
Um, the problem is SIBO is treated with antibiotics, only very specific ones. And also you can treat it with supplements. So there's 2 routes to go. In my case, we decided to treat it with both. But it can start from too much antibiotics that you start
Mm.
getting a bacterial overgrowth. It can also start from PPIs, trauma.
Mm.
So trauma that's held in the stomach, um, stress,
Yeah.
trauma,
It's all adding up. Yeah.
medications can start it, from what I'm told. So you can have it your whole life. Sometimes it doesn't get agitated so much, and sometimes it affects your entire microbiome and so your entire gut health, essentially. For me, carbs are my favorite, and they actually feed the bacteria.
Oh
So
no.
I've been living on the edge, eating carbs my whole life and just feeding that happy bacteria. So it's definitely alive and well in there for a long time. And I'm still in the journey of healing it. It's quite complicated to get rid of. It's quite hard to keep out and keep it from returning. So they say, I think I have like one of the best doctors ever. He's actually had it himself. So I feel really confident that he's
That's
got an
always a
eye in the
plus.
sky on my plan and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's definitely just an unexpected journey that I went on. And, just thinking about mental health, I've always thought about it so separately, right? It's like health, mental health, right? You put
Yeah.
them in boxes, but they are so connected. And, I wish I knew how connected they were so that I didn't get to this space. And I feel like I want to share pieces of that with the world and the community of people who may be suffering.
Yeah, I don't know if you might have said this. The audio cut out a little bit, but Dean, is it common or is it rare?
It's common.
It's
It's
common.
it's very common.
Shit. So people could have it right now and never know about it because it's not triggered, for example, right?
It can be in a state where it's triggered and you don't notice. So for me, it was triggered with symptoms that I tolerated for a long time until I got a symptom that I could not tolerate because I couldn't even work. I couldn't get up. It was debilitating. That's when I woke up and was like, whoa, I've got to look at something. And I didn't even know what the something was. I thought it was like, my mental state. I thought, maybe 2020 got me.
Yeah. No,
I'm sure that was part of it as well, because stress definitely causes flare-ups. So just, just knowing that it could be a gut issue. So people with anxiety and depression, look at Sibo. Make sure that you don't have these symptoms. It's a really easy test. It's not super expensive. I think it's about $150 to get tested. And if you have some of those symptoms, it's life altering.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a question. Did the symptoms get worse? Like the doctor said after the test, like the test triggered it, or?
The test definitely, I wouldn't say it triggered it more. It definitely brought up the symptoms. I had a lot more anxiety and went back into panic attack mode after the test, which was wild.
So the anxiety and the panic attacks, that was all caused by how your body was reacting to Sibo, which...
So most of the serotonin that's made in your body, well, this is all things I've learned. So I'm literally regurgitating information. But I think it's something that around 70% of your serotonin comes from your gut.
Right.
So if you don't have that moving up into your brain-gut connection, and your gut is having issues absorbing and creating, that's where the trouble starts. And that's where it started for me. But we were just, my regular doctor, who is not familiar with Sibo, just looked at me and was like, hey, let's get on anxiety medication. But the truth is I would never be able to get off it because the underlying cause was Sibo. So it was sense. My gut wasn't producing serotonin and that my gut's not working properly. It's not talking to my brain correctly. It's not working at all. I'm not getting nutrients. Like I might look healthy, but I was not healthy.
Wow.
So who knew?
So okay now it affects the small intestine. From what the research I did, I couldn't remember how to spell it or exactly what it was, but when I looked it up, I read the symptoms and I was like, that sucks. I'm not gonna say all the symptoms. You guys just Google Sibo, Sibo, and read the symptoms. It's
and everybody's different. Like some of the symptoms I didn't have at all, so I wouldn't have thought of it. And I think I would have probably gone undiagnosed had this doctor not experienced it himself. He happened to be a gut doctor, and he was obsessed with it because he was having all these issues. A lot of people who have IBS or are diagnosed with IBS, which is like a blanket, can also have Sibo issues, or SIFO, which is like a fungal version, which is another gut issue. But they can all cause or exaggerate anxiety and depression. So if you're in a space where you're prone to anxiety or depression already, and it at some point becomes worse, or you have some of the stomach issues that are similar, I would definitely take a look. If I could change one person's life, like that's where I'm at. I'm like, I just want to talk about it to make sure that people connect the brain and gut because they're so tight. And the recovery plan is definitely a challenging one. It definitely gets worse before it gets better. So I was put on some pretty strong antibiotics, and some doctors try to do the natural way first. I decided to go both routes. So I went the strong antibiotics first, and then the rebuild essentially of the microbiome after. So I am on a ton of fun pills and supplements every day that are natural antibiotics, such as oregano oil. I'm taking part of the garlic that's called allicin, and a ton of other digestive enzymes and issues, and things recommended by my doctors for my specific issues. But since I've been on the treatment plan, the anxiety level is going down.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Here's another question. Have you been kind of foggy from all the anxiety and the what you've been feeling because of SIBO?
Yes. 100%. It's like a brain fog that it's over you, and it kind of doesn't move or shift. I will say it's still there a little bit. It's not completely gone yet. The healing process for this specifically has been a different diet for a while called the Fodmap Diet, and a ton of supplements, and it's a very slow process. This is week, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, like week 6 of healing it. And I've got another couple weeks to start reintroducing foods back and figuring out, I got to take another Sibo test.
Oh, that's good.
Maybe we can film it. No, I don't know. No, but it's interesting because there's not a ton of information out there. So at some point, I'd like to be some sort of resource. When I was struggling and going through the process of taking the antibiotics, I started feeling worse and couldn't figure out why. There's this thing called Sibo die-off. So what does that really look like? You can Google it, but nobody's really telling you. So I guess my thing was I just want to be really honest with people and shout out to reach out to me. My Instagram is Joanna Theresa Heart, Heart, and shoot me a message. If you've got Sibo, you think you've got Sibo, I can't diagnose you, but if you're treating it, I might be able to answer some personal questions from a personal stance. It's not a medical stance, but here's what I went through. Here's what happened to me. Because I think it was definitely a weird, scary journey, especially sitting with all that panic, and my whole nervous system was dysregulated, trying to get back to a whole place, to a peaceful place, to a comfortable place even, was so incredibly hard. And it was, oh my God, I'll be honest, it was one of the scariest moments of my life. Imagine standing on a bridge and on your tippy toes, and you lean forward. That feeling right before you fall. Yeah. I felt like that 24 hours a day for 10 days. So
yeah, wow.
It was wild.
Stuff. The shitty thing is that it's common. It's not like a rare disease or syndrome or whatever, and it's we froze. You there? What happened?
It's actually a newer thing that they just found out. It's not something that's been around for years, maybe 5 years. So prior to that, I wouldn't have been diagnosed anyway.
I see. Okay, so it's common, but it's not new.
Yes.
Okay, correct. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the experience and sharing it will help tons of people, because people that develop these things, they feel alone, and they feel like no one understands them. How can you possibly understand that? You know what I mean? And then when you see an individual like yourself, or a community on Facebook or whatever, Instagram, it starts to become not surreal, because you start to learn that you're not alone, and hearing other people's experience actually really helps you. I think it'll help with the anxiety for sure, a little bit, not a lot, because the anxiety is being caused by the the syndrome, but or the bacteria, I should say, but still, it's kind of like the first process of feeling better, knowing you're not alone, and I think that's important. I'm really happy that you're talking about it. I know, dude. I've known you a long time, and I know it's tough, and I wanna thank you for talking about it. It's a hard thing to talk about, you
Yeah.
know.
But I mean, for me, I'm just like, yeah, there was really not a ton of resources. There were not a lot of people talking about it. So I started to find the resources myself and also decided like I want to be one. I like, I was hassling my doctor a lot, to be honest with you. I was like,
Mm.
what? Now I feel like this. Now I feel like that. Like there was a point that I didn't, I didn't leave my house for 30 days. I didn't leave
Wow.
that chair for 10. So I can only imagine, like, and I was Googling, because I was like, what is wrong with me? The first week we didn't really know. So, after I found out, there's still not that much information. And I wasn't sure if I had it. By the time you get a test, you're sitting in this weird limbo phase. And then the healing process for it is, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then all over again, possibly. Like, so just learning what your triggers are, your triggers look like, and figuring out how you got it in the first place is so key. I think for me, it was PPIs, so
Mm-hmm.
Prilosec, plus antibiotics as a kid. The two combination is like Sibo love.
So here's a question. I mean, obviously, it's gonna change life around for you. Do you have to, like, you mentioned carbs, and I know it's like your guilty pleasure, but does that mean you can never eat carbs again, or you just have to cut it down?
Absolutely not. So the Fodmap diet is just a very strange one, to be honest. It's like, and I don't remember all the cues. There's like, it's so complicated that like 6 weeks in, I couldn't even explain it to you.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, there's fructose in things and sorbitol, or I can't, like each letter stands for something. And
Yeah.
certain foods have more than others. So, for instance, broccoli is a no for SIBO unless you eat like a fourth of a cup. You can eat a fourth of a cup of broccoli, but that's it. You cannot have like gluten. So, gluten free. And this is the diet to start starving the bacteria.
Right.
So the first thing you need to do is get rid of the bacteria. The antibiotics and the supplements come in, and at first they tell you to eat all the bad stuff, which was so fun. They were like, make the bacteria super happy, and then you're gonna feed it, feed it, feed it, and then you're gonna feed it all this antibiotics, and it's gonna just keep eating.
Oh, that
So
makes sense. Wow.
it was so fun. The first 2 weeks, I was like, I can eat whatever I want. I got like Italian pizza and like all my favorite takeout. I was like living large. And then after that, I had to switch over to a low FODMAP diet. So definitely still carbs I can eat. Rice is one of them. I can eat gluten-free breads. Some of the things I had to cut out were like certain cheeses, but I can eat some other cheeses. So like I can't have like American cheese, but I can have cheddar. And I
Mm.
can't eat, one apples, but I can have blueberries. So there's a ton of trade-offs. The food the food is quite limited, um, based on my favorites. Like I really, really miss avocados. I can eat a fourth of an avocado, but if you know what a fourth of an avocado looks like, you're just like, really? Like I just got to like lick
Wow.
it. Yeah, it's rough.
That sucks. That is rough. That is rough.
But it's just for a time. And then essentially you reintroduce those foods back into your diet. I'm actually keeping a food journal. So there's a girl that talks a ton about SIBO. Her name is the Gusty Girl.
Nice.
She's got this little healing journal that I bought, which I thought was super great. And it allows you to kind of track your process and your journey and triggers and kind of what's happening. So for me, like if I'm having anxiety, it'll be like, woke up with anxiety. Like, here's what I ate. What might have caused that? What does that look like?
Mm,
And make sure that I'm staying on track with what I'm supposed to be eating. I will say the only thing that's really hard is like you can't eat out hardly anywhere.
yeah.
They have to
Yeah.
really love you there to like they have to make chicken with no onion, no garlic. Like it's like I don't know. It's tough. But look, this is not the worst problem in the world. I will say without knowledge, it was a very scary problem. But knowing and being strong enough to go like I'm going to get through this and heal it has been the easy part as long as you want it. And
Yeah.
you have to want it bad enough. Your symptoms have to reach a point where you're like, fine, I will eat chicken and salad for 8 weeks, whatever, like just get me well. And for me, the physical stuff was tolerable, but when it hit my mental health, I was like, I can't take a hit here. Like I love my brain too much. I can't like use my head. I was immobile. It was
Wow.
wild. Like I almost wish I documented it because it almost looked like I was on drugs. Like I remember like Zoom therapy with my like Zooming with my psychiatrist for the first time. And I was thinking like this guy must think I'm insane. Like I look like a crazy person. Like I was like, just you just had to see it. It was like nothing I've ever seen. And I just am still shooketh that it was a gut issue. I just can't even fathom that that's a thing. So, if you're on a journey to wellness, like keep searching, find your team, find your
Mm-hmm.
doctors, find the team that supports what you believe in. And, you know, modern medicine is amazing, but sometimes going backwards with like, a naturopath or a holistic doctor can lead down a different path that is literally life changing.
I
So,
believe that for sure, 100%. Yeah, I mean, So I know that. Yeah, I mean, going natural for sure. I would recommend it, but obviously, definitely, don't disregard modern medicine.
no, totally. And that's why I found
Yeah,
a doctor that does both.
that's good.
Um, they're called Modern Med. But they really intertwined everything that I felt um, connected. And, sometimes I'm not into the hippy dippy stuff. Like I'm like, it's too far out there. Like,
Yeah,
but these guys are just like right in the sweet spot and where they look at things and they're objective and it works. And it's been amazing. I've never felt like the healthcare that I've had in the US has been good until now.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, these guys don't take insurance.
Oh,
So it's but I've paid with my life for 20 years. So I would rather pay more to fix it now than to keep going the way that I was.
yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense because you have a lot going on, and I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine it going a different route. So I'm super happy that you were able to catch it, and what makes me happy is that you had someone that suggested something that was completely the opposite. Like you said, it was mental health, and you were focused on what's up with my mental health, but then a doctor was like, I don't think it's mental health. I think it's this. It's causing this, which would make sense.
Yeah.
I love hearing stories like that because it just really it really makes you feel like people are listening and not just you know
Finally.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean, not just telling you what they read in a book they studied a couple years ago in college. you know
Yeah. Yes.
that's
And it's wild.
that's
At first, I'm like, oh, well, the first instinct was this guy's not listening to me. He's telling me I have stomach issues. I love him. I was so wrong, but I don't know these things and neither did my regular doctor. And that's what shook me as well because I think I trusted so much in in the space I was in. And this is like I don't know how to explain this. When I was a kid, I don't know if I told this story. When I was a kid, I was going to prom and I ordered this dress online and the dress came to my house and it didn't fit me. And I remember putting the dress on, it was too big. And I was like, oh, I guess I have to send it back. So right before the prom, I sent the dress back. And I went to go buy a dress like 3 days before prom. There's no dresses left. I bought the ugliest dress. That's all they had. It was like a white dress. It looked like a bad wedding dress. Like I was like, what have I done? I wore the dress to prom. 2 years later, I remember talking about this photo and like how I was embarrassed of the dress I picked and that I had this beautiful black dress. It was so me. I would wear it right now. It's so pretty. But I returned it because it was too big, like up here. And someone said to me, why didn't you just alter it? Why did you send it back? And I was like, I could do that. I could have done that.
You could have, yeah.
I feel a lot of times in life that we're told something like, here's your doctor from your insurance, like go see them. And we're like, okay. And so we'll go and we'll bring what we have and we're like, here's what's up. And they're like, you're good. Or they're like, try this, try that, and nothing works.
Yeah.
And then we come back to them and we're asking for the same thing, a solution, but we never quite get it. And we don't go elsewhere in search,
you
know, unless something's so serious, like you need surgery. And then you'll always be like, well, I'm going to get a second opinion on this. But, you know, on the day-to-day stuff and, you know, the acid reflux and the, you know, the stomach issues, you know, I've had endoscopies and cameras put in my stomach and checking for ulcers, liver scans because Sibo can cause raised liver enzymes. And they were like, maybe you have hepatitis. I'm like, I definitely don't have hepatitis. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
But besides that, like, it's just like, you know, it's going around the ringer and then finally waking up and go like, I'm going in circles and this is not acceptable for my health. It's a hard system to navigate. Like, I'm a smart girl. I'm no dummy, but it took me a long time to realize that I had to be the seeker.
Yeah, you know, that's why I like when sometimes it's just even like a med student or just someone in a room saying, hey, did you check for this? Yeah. Why would I check for that? Well, because it causes 3 of those symptoms. I mean, that's enough. Just check for it. It doesn't hurt to do a simple test and so they can rule it out, you know, like that's important. And I'm happy someone looked at you funny and said, you know, I don't think you're crazy. I think it's this, you know. Do you ever watch House?
No, I can't stomach it.
You got to watch. Well, pun intended. You should watch it now because he deals with stuff like what you have where they think it's something else. And he's like, no. And it's the simplest thing. Like this one lady was dying from something they thought it was. And all it was a tick. She had a tick attached to her and it was just, you know, totally fucking up her immune system. And they said it was this other thing.
Lyme?
Huh?
Lyme?
Yeah. And he removed the tick and said she's fine. That's all it was. So it's interesting show. And like everything you're telling me, it's like this should be on the episode of House, which probably was. It probably did talk about it.
There's so much information out there and it's so easy to get lost. Like I think really the connection here is like Sibo anxiety, Sibo depression, because those are going to be the ones that you're going to be like, huh? How? You know, the stomach things like make sense for a gut issue. But I think, you know, the percentage of people who have anxiety and depression that have Sibo is so high that it needs to be looked at. Like it needs to be talked about more. It's common, it's out there, and it could be wrecking your mental health as well as, you know, your physical health. So.
You know what's interesting is that since it does affect your mental health so drastically that, you know, I have a buddy that's actually worked on a film called Anxiety Nation. I don't know what the film's about. It's not out yet, but this could be a cool part of it because just imagine all those individuals that have anxiety and it could just be Sibo.
I know.
It's
And
not
it's
mental health.
literally like in the other room, I have this tiny little box. It has 15 little tubes. You blow air. It's such a simple test. I'd understand if they had to do like scans or blood work, and you might be like, it's like so simple. I feel, relieved that I've done it, but I'm like, why didn't anyone do this for me? They stuck lasers in my nose and knocked me out and put stuff cameras in my stomach, and I'm like, here it was right here, like so simplified, like it's just all right there. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so glad that I was pushed to look at the other spaces of my health as well. Like, um, if you're having anxiety and depression, make sure you're combating it with taking care of your body,
Yeah.
because they're connected. It's all connected. And, the way that I actually found this was I had gone through this thing called neurofeedback. Have you
Hmm.
ever heard of it?
No.
Super cool. It's like brain training, essentially. I don't know how to explain that. When you go to the gym and you work out and you're like training your arms, this is like training your brain to
You said neurofeedback?
neurofeedback.
Okay, got it.
So essentially, it's taking pieces of your brain, looking at what it's doing, and sort of reprogramming it to do what you need it to do. So if your brain is like hyper, like vigilant and like stimulated, they can teach your brain to slow down, to breathe, to meditate. So essentially, they hook you up to all these little like plugs.
Yeah.
Um, and they watch your brain and you watch a screen. And based on what your brain's doing, the screen alters to train your brain to, in my case, it would be, calm down, slow down.
Wow.
So I found all of my doctors through the neurofeedback company called the Balanced Brain. They have a whole health approach. And little did I know that I needed the whole health approach. You know,
Is there not to cut you off, but is that a website also, like the balancebrain.com, or
I believe it's thebalancedbrain.com. You can just Google them. The Balanced Brain is quite amazing. It's done wonders for me in the headspace, but also can help with anxiety, depression. The owner, John, had started it. His daughter was autistic, and
Mhm.
he started working with her with neurofeedback and saw that it was helping her, and then became obsessed with it. And he's like a total geek for brain stuff. So he's really fun. You'd love to talk with him. He's a good
S-
time. But
just so I make sure this is correct, because I want to link all this stuff to
oh
so
yeah,
people
sure.
can click. It's the one I have here is called brainbalancecenters.com. Is that it? Or achievement?
Oh,
It's
type
not.
in the Balanced Brain. You can type in NoHo. They have two locations. One's in Beverly Hills and the other's in NoHo.
No ho. Okay, got it. The Balance Brain Neurofeedback Center, North Hollywood. Got it.
You got it. And
Cool.
they're the best. They're a team. They have a nutritionist, and they're a team of whole health. I just can't. Fanatics. They're just wonderful.
By chance, do you know, are there any other resources people can look at, or you haven't found anything other than what you found so far?
For neurofeedback?
Well, no, for Sibo.
Oh, for Sibo. Oh my God, yes. I have like a ton.
Can
Let
you
me
can you
let me
email it
yeah.
to me? Actually, yeah. Okay, email it. I'll copy and paste, and it'll be good.
Perfect. I'll send you a couple links. There's a girl that I follow on Instagram that's really wonderful as well. So, and she talks about it from a space of getting on the healing journey.
Mm.
But I want to talk about like what that healing journey might look like. Because for me, getting on the healing journey was luck. I got there. But then once I was on it, I was like, oh, I don't feel good. Now what? Like
Yeah.
that was part of the scary part for me. Like, is this going to get better? What is this supposed to be like? How am I supposed to feel? When am I going to feel better? What, hurry up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of thing. So I don't know. There were a lot of questions that I had as I was going through it that my doctor, not that he couldn't answer them, because he actually had Sibo, so he probably could, but he only works at my location twice a week, and I'm like, I need to leave the poor guy alone. It's like I need resources. So I was looking for people who were openly talking about it, and I found a couple. So
That's good. That's good. Now here's another question, and as someone that's been in the industry for a while, is there, if people wanted to reach out and just kind of like pick your brain, could I leave maybe a separate email that they can email you to so you don't get bombarded in case that does happen?
I would say just pop on my Instagram.
Instagram? Y'all heard it. Blow her Instagram up.
Like crazy, but like, you know what? If I help one person, I'm happy. If I help 50 people, I'm happy. So, I might take a day or two to answer you, but I would love to answer your questions if I can. If I have any insight on anything or ideas, you can bounce things off of me. Not a doctor, just last disclaimer. I feel
Yeah.
like I need to say that 1,000 times, but yeah, definitely open to sharing my experience and anything that you want to ask me, go for it. And I have
Cool.
to say, like, SIBO can be some pretty weird questions.
I
So
bet. I bet.
if you have a question,
It's
just say it's a weird one or it's like feels awkward to ask, but I'm gonna ask it anyway and at least prepare me for it.
well, it's important to be able to express, even as embarrassing as it can be. I mean, you've said a lot that 99% of people won't, and that's very brave
Pause.
of you.
Let me say one thing because I had to
Yeah.
lead up to this because I said I don't go to the bathroom. Like, remember,
Okay.
I was like, oh, I don't go. Haha.
Uh-huh.
That's funny. But it was actually true. So some people have SIBO the opposite problem
Right.
where, yeah, so things get crazy that way. And I didn't have that experience. So I can't necessarily share it, but I definitely know that it can be an issue the opposite way.
Yeah.
For me, I wasn't going to the bathroom. So at one point, my doctor was like, maybe you need to go get a colonic. And I was like,
Oh.
let me just find something else that's going to do. I was like, I was Googling everything. And luckily I didn't go get one. I mean, luckily I didn't have to go get one. I was fine. But there are other things you can do. So it's all good. But yeah, I feel like I talk the opposite way, but some people will have the opposite experience and that's okay too. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's why I said, as embarrassing it could feel, it's important, and that's something, I tell people. It's like, I mean, you don't tell everybody, like, hey, like my foot itches and I have hair at the bottom of my feet or something like that. Tell people that's relevant, or that can help and stuff. And I feel like, if they reached out to you, again, it's that removing the surrealness of you're alone. This is an experience, because the human experience can really be traumatic, and there's nothing worse than feeling alone. So,
yeah, especially if you're having anxiety, like,
yeah.
and this is not something that you've looked at as a potential issue
Yeah.
because who knew? Not me. Not me.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's like something so minute can cause some serious mental health problems, and I'm happy. Like when I saw that, when you posted that on Instagram, I was like, what? That's when I messaged you. I was like, we need to tell people.
Also, it's like, I kept saying to myself, like, as soon as the paramedics left and my Xanax kicked in, I was like, I need to bring the paramedics coffee. I was like, so dumb, right? There's like this thing where you're like, that couldn't, like, I literally looked at my child and was like, mommy loves you. Mommy will love you forever. I was like, I thought I was having a heart attack. Like, it was effing scary. And, to just be in that space. And it sounds like, it's been COVID. Everyone's stressed out.
Yeah.
Everyone has anxiety to some degree. But to be in that space, looking back at it, I feel so silly. But knowing now that my body was actually something was wrong, and my body was telling my nervous system, like, we're not okay. We're not eating. We're not
Yeah.
getting nutrients. When I thought I was eating, like, it's not, yeah, I definitely wasn't starving myself. I love food, but
Yeah.
my body wasn't taking in the nutrients and my vitamins were actually not even being absorbed. So I was,
Wow.
yeah, I was
It's
at a
very
space.
it's very similar. well, in some of the things you're describing, it's very similar to tapeworm. You know.
It is like having a parasite essentially. Only
Yeah.
like I didn't have
Yeah.
anything like actually leaving my body, but it is a bacteria that that produces methane gas. So the blowing into the tube actually, if you have methane gas in your breath, you have Sibo. It's that easy to test because the human body does not make methane gas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy you're able to discover this before it got worse, or, like as human beings, we tend to ignore. Like you said, oh, this is just how I am.
Yeah, I mean, I just accepted because so many doctors were like, "We don't see anything. You're fine." Like, thinking I'm making stuff up or just
I hate that.
figure it out. One doctor who looked like Doogie Howser once told me that I should just eat more broccoli, and I remember looking at him and I was like, "Are you serious? Like, do you think I haven't thought of like eating vegetables before? Like, is this what you think is wrong with me?" Actually, broccoli agitates SIBO. So
I was just gonna say that. That's
know, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I've heard it all.
The doctor said eat broccoli, and I ate broccoli, and I got worse. What the hell?
I swear to God, I'm just like, is this real? Some of the things they've come up with, like, I'm just like, are you sure? Like, and they weren't right. Like, that's the thing. You have to be your own detective for your health.
Yes.
Unless you have some like incredible, amazing doctor, but you still have to be the detective of your health.
100%.
It is your job. They don't take it on as their job.
No, they're just there to figure out how they can help you. And the shitty thing is because of, unfortunately, because of insurances, like you said, the doctor would be like, "You're fine. Just take this, and you call me in the morning." And it's something as simple as doing a breath test.
Just ask questions, and that's the thing. You got to be searching for real answers, but you also have to know that your problems, that your symptoms are not normal. Symptoms are telling you something. They're information. They're saying, "Hey, I have a problem. I need your." So
exactly.
Instead of just looking at them as like, "Hey, I have to live with this," or "This is me," or "No one can help me," it's like, no, the symptoms are talking to me. They're telling me that. And I have to learn to communicate, express, search, seek, whatever that looks like for me, to find a way to speak back to my symptoms and help them.
Yeah, and that's exhausting as well. Just because it becomes, for some individuals, it becomes an obsession for a while, and it kind of consumes your life, and which is it could be a good thing because then you become an advocate and you start helping people from it. But then there's those individuals that it just takes a toll on, and
I know you're gonna think I'm crazy. I can't believe I'm gonna say this like live, but I was like, maybe Britney Spears had SIBO.
Hey, maybe
she was having mental health issues, and to be 100% honest with you, her stomach looked like mine. So she has a really flat stomach, but it has like a weird shape to it if you look at it. And part of me was like, what if Britney has SIBO and no one's helped her?
Oh, you're talking about when she shaved her head?
No, she's been struggling with mental health issues.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She has like a censorship over her life. Like, I don't know. Have you seen the documentary? I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a whole documentary about it. But like personally, I was like, maybe she has it, and that's what's messing with her mental health because her stomach looks so similar to what mine looked like.
It's funny.
She was skinny, like she looks good, but there's just like this weird like shape that I had that I'm like, oh, what if she has SIBO? Poor thing. Like I want to, like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But now I start looking at people and I'm like, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to mention it because what if I can help someone?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You bringing this up now, I'm not saying that it could get to her, but I'm sure if I tag Britney Spears and one of her fans or somebody knows her, hopefully, and they say, hey, maybe you should get tested for it. Imagine if she has it and they cure that,
Best $50 she's ever spent.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And here's another question. Here's another question: is there any long-term side effects, or is there anything that you discovered, you learned about it that's long-term?
No, not really. I mean, essentially, except for going down, and now I have to like sort of retrain my nervous system, and refeed my body and replenish my nutrients. Um, it's a journey. Like I've been on magnesium for 2 months, 3 months now, and I'm still magnesium deficient. Like, I probably got to bump that up still, and I'm going to go back and get tested for D. So it's a long haul. Takes a long time to get your health back in order, and your immune system built back up, especially after treatment, because you're essentially wiping out all the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. I
Yeah,
have one more huge important thing to say that I forgot.
let's hear it.
Probiotics can make Sibo worse.
Ooh.
So when I was having all these stomach issues, I was drinking BioK probiotics
Uh huh.
and Yakult and like all sorts of like probiotics that I thought were great. The SIBO actually feeds off of those probiotics. So that is a bad combo. First, you have to treat the SIBO first because no probiotics are, miracle workers.
Right.
And then you need, I want to say it's called like ground based probiotics. It's a different soil based probiotics.
Okay.
It's a different probiotic. Definitely need a doctor. This is not something you can cure on your own. It's not something that's easy. I'm taking, I don't know, this is a list of all my supplements. There's tons of them. There's another page. So this is
Wow.
daily. It's full on, and there's a long-term plan of how to recoup from that. But I don't think there are any long-term symptoms. It just takes a while to get your nervous system back in order and your body back to speed.
I hear you there. I hear you. Well, again, thanks for doing this, and like when I saw that post, um, having the knowledge that I have, I was like, this is important. This needs to be discussed. This needs to be shared, and I'm really happy you chose to go that route because it's not easy, and some people are like, no, I don't want to talk about it. It's like, dude, you could be
Definitely
saving,
weird.
huh?
It's definitely weird, like trying to explain to people like what happened to me. Like even my neighbors, they were like, "Are you okay? We saw a paramedic truck outside your house." And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, where do I start? Like, how do I explain it? Oh, I have a stomach thing. Like, even like my employees, I'm like, oh my God, they probably think I'm crazy. It sounds like I feel like it's crazy, but it happened and it's possible. It's scary. It's like, one day when my employees, are older, maybe they'll know someone that they can help with it too. So just
yeah.
happy to get it out into the world. Happy to send, links and any information that I have to you to post down below so that people have some
Absolutely.
resources. And obviously, anyone that wants to reach out to me, hit me up on Instagram. I will do my best. And yeah.
Yeah, all the contact info that I put last time will be below, and if you guys are locals in Burbank, stop by the coffee shop.
The Palm
Definitely,
Coffee Bar. Hey.
definitely say Time sent you. Oh, you get discount. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Um, yeah, dude. If you need anything, let me know. I'm here to help. So, thanks for doing this, and it's really important that we went live, so people get to watch it this week, and then whenever Ludovico decides to finish editing, he can't hear me. Editing this, then we'll post it, and it'll have. I mean, this will definitely have the links, but when I post it, it'll have the links. So,
Cool. Maybe when
yeah.
I do my SIBO test, I'll post that and I'll talk about how I feel or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
if I don't have SIBO, I probably won't have symptoms from it. So that'll be cool. I'll probably know as I do the process if I don't feel as ill as I felt last time. So that's kind of cool, like an easy
In,
way to feel out. If you don't have to wait for the results, you'll sort of know.
if you're open to this, why don't you talk to producer Deanna and we can schedule to come back in like 2 months or something, and you can update everybody.
Okay, cool.
Or whenever you want, whenever you're like, maybe in 6 weeks I'll have, because I'm doing this. And
well, my test, I have to wait like a month and a half still to take the test.
okay,
So
after that,
so when we test, and then we'll hit you back up, and we'll get back in here and talk about it a little bit more.
yeah, that'd be cool, because then you might even learn some more stuff you can share with people, and
Cool stuff.
Awesome.
Love it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna kill the live feed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching. And once Ludovico, the famous Ludovico, is done editing this, it'll be posted back up. So, see y'all later.